Okay, we have started recording. If anyone's joining us live on Instagram or wherever else this is posted, hello. Thank you for joining us here for this workshop of Sacred Rage, exploring the alchemy of our intense emotions. Woohoo! Thank you, AI assistant. So when we say we're exploring the alchemy of intense emotion, we're really inside of this workshop going to be exploring the range of expression we can experience while we're processing the world around us. I personally have had people ask me about, is this going to be mostly about anger and like loud expression of rage? No, rage can show up in a whole multitude of different ways, or just how we are processing the world around us can range from everything from numbness and dissociation all the way up to that more traditional understanding of rage, which is loud and can feel like it's going to get destructive or has gone into some destructive behavior. And we're here to really understand the gambit and the beautiful web of emotions, because our emotions all work together as a beautiful web, helping us navigate this world around us, serving as guideposts so we can navigate and utilize our systems, which are adapted to respond to this world and help us survive and help us move to the place of safety, which is really what we're working on inside of this work, is coming into a place of cultivating internal safety. And all of our emotions are actually assistance for that, even the ones that scare us. They are signals for how to go deep within to explore what wisdom is there. What wisdom is there in our own system? What wisdom have we inherited from those who came before us? What wisdom have we been gleaning from the earth herself to understand the moment we're in right now and how to move through it? So a little overview of how this workshop is going to go. I'll have us introduce ourselves in a moment. But what we're going to do is I'll have everyone feel their bodies before we officially begin and set a little bit of a somatic container. Then we'll move into learning about the different types of different realms of rage, which Amanda's going to be talking about with us, which includes our bodies, but also includes our ancestral and inherited responses to things. And Simone is going to close us out with beautiful wisdom from Mother Earth and how to use herbs, adaptogens, nervines, how to make teas to support our systems as they're doing this very deep work inside of us. And we'll have moments for Q&A as well. We'll also have a little bit of a sharing here and there as we go through. If you have questions, I don't know if everyone sees where they can raise their hand, but you can raise your hand. If you can't find it, you can just pop off mute and say, I have a question. And if we have time, we'll get to you. Also, you can write in the chat any questions you have. If we don't get to any of your questions, we will be looking through the chat afterwards. And so we can answer any questions in follow-up emails. And you can, of course, feel free to reach out to any one of us individually if you have more questions. This workshop is here to welcome you as you are. So you can have your camera on, you can have your camera off, you can be engaging in the chat, asking questions, or you can just be sitting and receiving. However you and your system want to be here with us today is exactly right. And that is the wisdom we're tapping into. So I'm going to have us introduce ourselves. I'll start with Amanda. Please share who you are.
Hey guys, I'm Amanda Elemental, and I'm a seer and a guide, and I work with the nervous system and the body and intuitive guidance to help people unwind any survival patterns that they've inherited and rebuild their internal systems from a place of safety and truth. And I am also a DJ, and I use music and movement to help people get out of their heads and into their bodies and to move emotions through their body from a somatic standpoint. And yeah, I'm stoked to be here and excited to talk to you guys about rage and how to alchemize it.
Awesome. And beautiful Simone.
Hello, my name is Simone. Also, I go by Time Space, and I weave ancient wisdom from the earth with ethnobotanical science and nutritional science to host, to create events, as well as retreats and experiences and one-on-one sessions to guide transformation. I have been a student of the Gaia School of the Earth, the Plant Medicine Mystery School, as well as just sitting in circles with the elders with indigenous wisdom from the Americas. And I'm excited to be talking to you about a couple plants I think be friends of yours. And yeah. Everything.
Awesome. Thanks, Simone. Thanks, Amanda. And I'm Mara. I actually have my background in forensic psychology. I worked for 12 years in some of the most locked down and violent facilities in New York City, which actually sparked the spiritual aspect of my work, wanting to understand how we can actually touch the hearts of the people we're working with rather than just medicating and offering sort of clinical protocol for managing external safety. I noticed that didn't always translate into internal safety, which took me on a long journey, including lots of plant medicine work, working with teachers, developing my own practice and guiding people on mushrooms, but also in a sober space, and using ceremony as a foundational medicine. You'll experience a little bit of that today when I share my piece. I call myself a transformational guide. Part of my background also includes working with people around sexuality and personal confidence. So I'm also known as a transformational intimacy coach. And I use sound frequency, I translate frequencies into sound to help us really feel what's happening in this moment. And it's channeled from the group I'm working with. It's also channeled from the earth herself to help us really access what wants to be expressed in the moment, and let our systems feel themselves at a deeper level. So, are there any initial questions? Great. One last little thing we'll share is, why are we doing this now? Why rage now? I personally think it's always important to have access and knowledge and understanding of our deepest emotions. But we are particularly at a time and space where there seems to be so much chaos around us. And it's super important for us to have this restoration of our internal landscapes, so we can, as individuals, begin to shift the frequency around us. When we shift the frequencies inside of us, it shifts the frequencies around us. And the more people moving through the world who can really work with their internal landscape assists the external landscape, and helps us not drown inside of the frequencies and emotions of others, but stay true to who we are, so we can actually ride the waves rather than get sucked under. So we do feel, the three of us, that this is an amazing time to be doing this powerful work. So to officially dive in with all of you, we'll open it up. Does anyone want to share? You don't have to. You can type in the chat, raise your hand, or just pop off mute. Does anyone want to share how they relate to the idea of rage, or how they've experienced it, or what brought you to this workshop today.
Yeah, Christoph, why don't you hop in?
Yeah, hi. My name's Christoph. I'm in New York City. It's pretty wild. I work as a psychedelic guide. I'm a former war journalist. And I was on a call yesterday with my supervisor. And he brought up, and I've been working with him for a long time. He's a therapist slash supervisor to make sure I'm on track. And he brought up Sacred Rage yesterday. And when I hung up the call, I got your email, and I thought, that's okay. I'm going to trust that. But I'd say what the reason I'm here is that, but also I think I have had a very hard time dropping into a lot of wellness spaces because I don't feel safe as a journalist. Let's just say I haven't trusted the container always of people having different perceptions of reality. And that has made me incredibly angry as somebody who's spent most of his career in the field and lost a lot of friends and trying to find truth. And so I know I'm diving into the deep end here. I'm saying that's why I'm here. I'm really serious about being here. I have so far, you all sound very impressive. And so I just want, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Christoph. Yeah, it's true. There are a lot of wellness spaces where there's an assumed baseline that everyone's walking in the room with, or there's the personal beliefs about what wellness and safety means. And there isn't room in some spaces for people as they are from all walks of life to come in. And we three had a discussion about this, as team leaders. How do we really hold that space? Are we willing to hold that space? Thankfully, we all were willing to hold the space for the wide range of life experiences that we may be encountering. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
We have
Christabel. I believe it's Christabel.
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's twofold for me. So right now I'm in a space in my life where things are very uncertain, and I think it's really easy to repress the anger that causes and just feel sad or hopelessness or whatever. So I was in a experience the other day with a psychedelic, and it was all about yelling and hitting pillows and like feeling the anger of like, why am I in this situation? Understanding how much we are used to just repress anger. And then the other side is I think the spiritual movement that's happening, it's kind of harmful in the sense that we're all just enlightened and we just stop being human. We don't feel the emotions that a human feels. We just like are enlightened the whole day. Every time that you see like a guru that's angry, it's like, oh, I thought he would never feel that again. So I think it's really healthy to talk about all the emotions that exist, even when we're in the spiritual path, and the harm that can be created when we suppress those emotions instead of just like processing them in a healthy way.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that in too, because I do think in spiritual spaces there can be a lot of bypassing of emotions that we think are harmful or bad, or people are considered not healed enough or not enlightened enough if we feel these very human and very rational reactions to things, which can also perpetuate harm, right? So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because I think that is definitely an issue. Also, Simone, I'm not sure if your mic is feedbacking or not. If you want to just go on mute, because I'm hearing some stuff. Thank you. Well, maybe not. No. Anyway, I'm going to have Kat come in while we're figuring that out.
Hello. Hi. I'm not sure if you can hear, but my name is Kat and I'm from Jersey. And it's kind of a synchronicity because I had a therapy session today where We talked about having still suppressed anger from my mom and towards my family, and that I have a right to still release it instead of just saying, okay, like having ceremony, I found compassion for the first time, but that's just not enough. I need to release it and really let it out. And for, ever since I've done plant medicine since 2021, I've been trying to understand what healthy anger looks like, what it feels like, because I understand there's that aggressive, destructive, externally and also an internal anger that hurts yourself, but how does healthy anger look like? How can I use anger in a healthy way to help me, with speaking up for myself, protecting myself, so this is a great, just a synchronous thing to have encountered. So I thank you for this today. And I'm excited to learn from what I can. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And it's really exciting to see so many people coming in so many synchronistic ways too. I love seeing that.
Also in the chat, Jessica shared that she recently she became very comfortable with being frustrated, sad, annoyed, and other similar emotions, but comfortable being angry and often try to sidestep it.
Amazing. So for time, we're going to move on. Thank you to everyone who shared. As we can see, this is a really potent topic, really deep, and necessary to be exploring, especially in a group, so we can learn from each other and understand different perspectives. So Amanda's going to give us a lot of beautiful information about the 4 realms of rage. But before we dive into that, I want to invite the room to just take some breaths and notice however your breath wants to be breathed in and out. Because our breath is the one thing that really ties us to our authentic state. And we don't have to control how it goes in and out, or take a deep breath, or take this many breaths, or count to 4 as you breathe in. We're just going to notice our own individual breath and how it wants to enter our body and help show us exactly how we are in this moment, even if we don't have the word for it. And as you breathe, just be noticing your body, where you might be noticing energy gathering, what parts of the body start to respond, make themselves known to you more clearly, or just simply feeling how the breath is moving. That's you. Your breath is you exactly as it is. It's always right. Your breath is always, always right. And so I'm going to hand it over to Amanda. And as she's sharing this beautiful information with us, just keep, as you listen, notice your responses, notice your breath, notice what bits of what she has to share hits you in different ways, and what gets activated in yourself. So Amanda, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Mara. And we're going to begin by talking about the 4 realms of rage. So how rage moves through the body, moves through our emotions, moves through our energy, and moves through our lineage. And I want to offer a framework for understanding rage, not from the standpoint of fixing it or getting rid of it, but just to understand where it's coming from. Because when we can figure out the realm in which rage is moving through us, we know how to meet it and we know what it might need instead of just fighting against ourselves. And I think when people talk about things like anger or rage, it can often just get flattened down into just one thing. So it's like you're either angry or you're not. But rage actually comes in very different layers of our systems, and offering a way in which rage comes in, where it's living, because rage that shows up in the nervous system is going to be very different from rage that shows up in our emotional body, or if it's ancestral or energetic. So when you understand sort of what realm it's playing in, you understand what framework you can use to move through it or support it. And often these realms sort of overlap, and it's important to locate sort of which dominant realm your rage is playing in so that it can bring about clarity instead of confusion. If you want to hop to the next slide, thank you. And I want to talk about why this is important. So show of hands, how many of you have ever been judged or even judged yourself for your own rage? Okay, it's a lot of hands. How many of you have labeled your anger or your rage as bad and tried to suppress them? So yeah, we're getting a lot of raised hands, and that makes sense because for most of us, we have been taught that rage is a flaw or an inherently bad emotion instead of a natural boundary or a natural response to violations or injustice or threat. So even think about how many of us have probably heard that saying growing up, that children are to be seen and not heard. That means from a very young age, we've been taught to label these emotions as bad. So instead of recognizing them as a physiological response and a signal that's actually moving through our body, we'll try to repress these emotions and push them down. I think especially too when it comes to women, we are taught to be calm or demure or not overreact, or we'll be labeled as crazy or, you know, thrown in the loony bin not even that long ago. So just remembering that it's also societal conditioning that teaches us these things, like not feeling these emotions. And I want to offer an example of this. So picture this AI generated lion with her lion cubs. And if a predator starts walking towards her and her cubs, she's gonna snarl, right? She's gonna express anger, and she's not gonna pause and wonder like, oh, am I being dramatic? Am I overreacting? And her rage isn't violence, right? It's just a reaction that indicates that a boundary is about to be crossed. She's very, very clearly letting this predator know that they're about to violate a boundary. And no one thinks that this lion mother is going to be too angry or is experiencing rage because she's just not healed enough. It's we instinctively know that her anger is protecting something sacred to her, right? So she's reacting to a boundary that is about to be violated. And that's what rage is meant to do in us as well. It helps us know when a boundary is being crossed or when something actually matters. So without access to our rage or anger, like we've been talking about, we're conditioned to sort of push that down and not feel those emotions. But without access to them, we can lose the ability to sense when something isn't okay or when someone is about to violate a boundary. So instead of signaling when this boundary is about to be crossed, we may freeze, or we may fawn, or we may people please, or we may even just override ourselves entirely. And when that happens, that means that this rage just has nowhere to go. And that can mean that if you think of rage as an emotion and emotions as just energy in motion, if that emotion or that energy is getting trapped inside your body, that can lead to disease, or it can lead to other complications. When I think of autoimmune disorders and the majority of people that suffer from them being women, I think there is something to be said in that a lot of women are repressing this emotion and it's coming out in other ways. So if you get into the habit of suppressing your anger and you can't feel it, you often also can't hear your boundaries either. And then this can become a much bigger issue than just suppressing your emotions. And this is where the 4 realms of rage comes in, because each realm describes a different layer of how rage shows up in our system, and each asks for a different kind of awareness and a different kind of response. So the realms aren't separate, they're not hierarchical, they're not meant to be diagnostic, and most of us experience rage across more than one realm at the same time, but usually one of them is leading and one of them is kind of running the charge. And when we know where to locate rage and what realm it's primarily moving in, we know which tools we can utilize with it. So the nervous system is going to be different from the emotional body and different from what's required from rage that's showing up that's ancestral. And I'm going to walk us through each realm, and we'll sort of talk about what helps work with it instead of fighting against it. And I want to start with the nervous system because that's often where rage can begin. And here it's not a thought or a story, it's rage as a physiological response. So how it can show up is heat or tension or shallow or held breath or rapid breathing. It can also show up as mobilization or like a really big surge of energy. And this happens when the body is registering threat or injustice or a boundary violation, and it's mobilizing to protect itself or to keep it safe. So when rage is primarily in the nervous system, what's needed isn't emotional processing or meaning making, because these reactions can be so somatic and so intense. It's not asking to be thought through, and it's asking for slowing down. It's asking for grounding. It's asking for the body to help be regulated to feel safe enough to actually complete the activation without it getting stuck. So we've kind of been addressing what happens when emotions do get stuck in our body and we don't process them fully through, in terms of it coming out in different ways, whether that's illnesses or disease or just complications. So we want to make sure that we're actually completing the activation without the rage getting trapped or the emotions getting trapped in our bodies. And that brings us to the second realm, which is the emotional body. And rage is rarely just the first emotion. It's usually a protector of what is happening underneath. So that can be in the form of grief or hurt or shame or disappointment or any kind of unmet needs that were really big emotions that didn't necessarily feel safe to feel at the time. So this can come through as intensity or reactivity or emotional overwhelm or a really big feeling that is sitting underneath the surface. So when it's living in the emotional body, meeting those underlying emotions doesn't mean forcing yourself to feel everything all at once or like diving into a story about the past. It means creating enough safety to let the intensity soften just enough to be able to see what's underneath there and to acknowledge it. So this might look like letting yourself name grief instead of staying angry, or admitting that something hurt instead of staying defensive, or allowing yourself to feel disappointment instead of just trying to like push through it. The key here is really compassion and witnessing. These emotions don't need to be fixed or judged. So for example, let's say that you feel rage towards a partner for something that they did that really, really upset you. And if you were to really examine it and sort of look underneath the hood, that rage may not never have been about the actual thing that your partner did. It may be about an underlying grief about never having been met by your partner in the way that you've needed, right? So it's the rage that can show up as like the top level, but when you dig a little bit deeper, there's usually something underneath it that rage is actually trying to protect. And no one needs to answer this out loud. You can write it in the chat if you want, but I just want to offer, if you think about your own anger or your own rage or a time in which you felt angry recently, do you have a sense of what it might be protecting underneath? Not analyzing, just noticing if there's a sense of like, yeah, actually this rage might have been in relation to something else. And we're going to move on to the energy body. Okay, yeah, someone said it feels like disappointment. And moving on to the energy body. So in this realm, rage also acts like a compass to show us where a boundary has collapsed, or where a truth has been ignored, or where life force has been drained through doing something like chronically abandoning yourself or chronically overriding your needs. So this doesn't usually show up as explosive rage. It more so comes out as a strong sense of knowing that something needs to change, even if you're not really ready to act on it yet or not. So what this looks like from a restoring alignment standpoint, it's not about emotional processing. It's more so about action and about truth. So alignment really gets restored when we stop overriding ourselves or overriding our boundaries. So when we tell the truth that we've been ignoring, when we repair a boundary that has collapsed, or when we stop saying yes when we really want to say no, which I think is really big for people, especially people that haven't been able to access feelings of anger, or people that have been chronic people pleasers. It's really, really hard for people to sometimes say no, or even say yes when they mean no. And typically this type of rage shows up when something in your life is no longer sustainable, and your system knows it before your mind even admits it to yourself. So for example, someone might feel constant irritation at work, and nothing that they do from a regulation standpoint or a calming standpoint really helps. And when they finally sit with themselves and kind of get to the truth of the matter, they might find that the role or the hours or the dynamic with their team is just completely misaligned. And that rage has never subsided, or that irritation has never subsided, because the integrity hasn't been restored yet. So you're going to keep feeling that irritation before you really like name the truth behind what's happening. And if this is sort of like clicking for any of you, I want you to just notice if there's anywhere in your life where you feel like your body may have been signaling like, oh, actually, this doesn't work for me anymore, even if you haven't necessarily acted on it yet. And then the fourth realm is ancestral. And this is where we begin to recognize that some rage isn't actually just our own. Because rage can carry lineage, it can carry culture, it can carry intergenerational experiences, and it doesn't just apply to interpersonal situations in our lives. It can also apply to rage on a collective level. And right now, as Mara mentioned earlier, we are living in a time of really intense collective strain. For me personally, sometimes it feels like we're just swimming in a pressure cooker of like unresolved harm. We have a lot of political violence, ongoing war, ongoing genocides, environmental collapse, systemic injustice, and ancestral trauma that is all surfacing all at once. And quite frankly, any one of those things is completely enraging at times. So because of that, many of us are holding rage that isn't just personal. It can be collective, it can be intergenerational, and it can be moving through our bodies whether we have a direct personal story attached to it or not. And when collective rage or ancestral rage doesn't have anywhere to go, similar with rage in general, it doesn't just disappear, right? It can get metabolized into our body, it can get projected or weaponized, and it can become destructive, right? So what helps in this realm isn't problem solving or trying to calm it down. What really helps is awareness and acknowledgement. So naming that some of what you're actually feeling didn't start with you, and understanding where it came from can be incredibly regulating, because it can bring context to intensity that can otherwise feel really overwhelming or really confusing. And when we meet that with recognition and witnessing instead of fear, it can often shift from overwhelm into purpose. And sometimes that can even be collective purpose. And it can be something that mobilizes us rather than something that we feel like we have to carry by ourselves and carry alone. So, for example, many people may feel intense rage around injustice or violence that doesn't necessarily directly affect their personal life per se, but it affects people in their community or people that they love or people in their family. And that also deeply affects their psyche, deeply affects their body. And it doesn't mean that they're overreacting. It just means that their system is responding to collective or inherited trauma. So when we're looking at rage, we're not looking at it from the standpoint of like, this is a problem that needs to be solved, or this is something that needs to be suppressed or ignored. We're really looking at it from the standpoint of like, how do we understand what realm it's playing in? How do we understand where it's coming from? And how do we understand what also personally works for us in order to alchemize it and metabolize it and move through it? So we can really understand where it lives. We can really understand also how to meet it and how to work with it. So we kind of went over these 4 realms where the nervous system needs safety and the emotional body needs compassion and the energetic body needs truth and boundaries, whereas the ancestral field needs acknowledgement. And just knowing that each of these realms kind of work in a little bit of a different manner, and when knowing what each of them is and how we can acknowledge all of them, we can also understand how to move with those emotions even more instead of just pushing them down and thinking that this rage is just related to one thing, or like I'm either angry or I'm not. And I just want to give that a little minute for all of that information to land. And I want to invite any reflections or any questions that you guys may have, anything that may have come up. All right, cool. If there is nothing, then I am going to hand it over to Mara, who...
I have a question.
Yeah, for sure. Is that your question? What each realm needs?
No, that wasn't
sorry,
me.
that was someone else.
But you can address that one first if you want.
Okay, cool. So Kat wanted to hear what each realm needs, and the nervous system needs safety. The emotional body needs compassion. The energy body needs truth and boundaries, and the ancestral field needs acknowledgement. And I'll toss that in the chat too. And yeah, Chrissy, did you want to bring something in?
Yeah, I guess that was like part of my question, but more specifically about like the ancestral field, because like it was like a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago now, I was experiencing like the most intense anger like I've ever. I feel like it was almost like the first time I was really like feeling it and like letting it express, but I didn't know how to express it in like productive ways, but it felt like a lot of it felt like it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
But like it was getting instigated within my romantic relationship at the time. And so I was like putting it on him, but like I just kept being like, I don't know what to do. Like, this doesn't feel like I would even tell him, like, it didn't feel like mine. But like, I guess the acknowledgement is like I'm like, what do you do when it's like so overwhelmingly intense? Because that's kind of what you described it for, like that one, when it's so overwhelming. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I haven't experienced it in a long time, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Mara's going to go over some sort of like techniques that we can also do when it feels like super overwhelming and too much in that sense. But the acknowledgement in the first place of like, this isn't necessarily mine. Like, this can be generational trauma or like generational rage that has been passed down to you and lives in your system and has never been acknowledged or like never been alchemized in some way, shape, or form. And what we're talking about is when it's not acknowledged or when it's not moved through your body, that's when it can come out sideways from the standpoint of like, now I'm enraged at my partner for something that has absolutely nothing to do with him, right? So it's sort of these like different tips and tricks of realizing like, hey, this isn't fully mine, but also like, how do I take it one step further of like recognizing this isn't fully mine and then finding a way to release it healthily so that I'm not taking it out on like my partner or my parent or the person that cut me off in line and at the grocery store type of thing. And there'll be all kinds of different somatic ways to do this and different somatic practices that Mara is also going to take us through. Before we get to that, I will say that my favorite technique of releasing rage is movement and dancing. And also, I know that people will tell you like, oh, like scream into a pillow. That doesn't work if you live in a condo because people are going to wonder what's going on. Right? So I personally, when I'm driving and I'm alone in my car, I will just scream at the top of my lungs whenever I'm feeling like a lot of energy and a lot of rage that like needs to get out of me. It's just finding these ways to release this energy so that it's no longer sitting within your body and it's no longer within you to want to be released towards other people or other situations.
Thanks. Yeah. I've also screamed in my car. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. Just make sure you like warm up your vocal cords first, because I've done it where I've like hurt them, and then the next day I just like couldn't speak. It was like, oh, raged too hard in my car last night.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring in or any other questions?
For the interest of time, I'll say any further questions on this portion, please put in the chat and we'll get to them or definitely respond to you in some way if they're not directly answered in the workshop. But thank you for that share and that beautiful question, Chrissy. I know it resonated with most people in here. Awareness and acknowledgement, like Amanda was just saying, and I love your combined term, awarement, that you said extensively.
I wasn't to say that, but that's great.
Yeah, awareness and acknowledgement are really key. Working with our emotions is a practice, and it's something we cultivate bit by bit. It's a messy realm. It's not meant to come out perfectly or go smoothly at all times, particularly when we're reaching new levels of the system getting super activated. But the more we are actually deciding to sit with ourselves when we can and work with our breath and work with, if we can name the feeling, if we can say, this doesn't feel like mine, but I'm really feeling something, and beginning to breathe and beginning to feel the body, that's our foundational way to tap into this wisdom that's being given to us. As human beings, we evolved on this planet so everything we experience, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, those are actually things we adapted to serve us. So the acknowledgement that what I'm feeling is real, what I'm feeling is right, is really the first way we can start to be with ourselves in these intense emotions. What often causes that sense of being lost or overwhelmed or shut down or raging at people who actually didn't instigate what's going on is when we're trying to fight the feeling, or we're internalizing societal judgment that what we're feeling is wrong. Our reactions are wrong. Our reactions need to not be so huge, or not trusting our reactions. Many of us, both men and women, were taught at a very early age to distrust our true reaction to a situation. Told by the adults around us to calm down, it's not that big a deal. Our no's got ignored. We were told we should say yes. We were told to put a smile on our face. You know, don't upset the room, don't make waves. Or we saw very unhealthy examples of anger being expressed that came through in violence, that came through in passive aggressiveness, that came through in our family members harming each other. So we're like, I don't want to do that. So this feeling that's coming up in me, I'm going to try to get it out of me because I don't want to cause the harm I've been witnessing around me. So when we can shift inwardly that narrative that what I'm feeling is actually right, and that can actually start to activate the breath a lot. We can start to feel our heart race. And when we can say, actually, every time, all of my reactions through my whole life, they have been right. I may not have been shown how to use them properly, but my emotional experience as a human being on this planet has always been right. That's the first foundational medicine we really want to work with. Our own energy is our master teacher in this lifetime. Our reaction to this world is our master teacher in this lifetime and is always our truest guide because we're always only with ourselves. So I want to invite everyone to take the breaths, again, however it feels right to you to breathe. And just noticing what your system is doing. And noticing if you're trying to control how you're breathing. You know, I should be breathing more deeply. I should be making a sound when I breathe. I should not be breathing so much. Whatever it is you're noticing as you breathe. And if you are trying to control that, the trying to control how you're breathing is your learned adaptation to how to please the room. You don't have to shift that in this moment. Again, we're in that phase of acknowledgement and awareness. That's our first step into all of this. I notice I'm trying to control my breath. Okay, I'm just going to keep breathing. Because that learned adaptation is also right. It's also yours. It's also your response to the world around you. Just do a scan from head to toe, noticing what's there. Whatever you feel in this moment, whatever you notice, buzzing in the head, heart racing, deep calm, deep relaxation, tightness anywhere, whatever it may be, notice it and say, thank you. You are a right response inside of me. Thank you. You are my right response to this moment. I'm going to have us just breathe and work through that. Just noticing and saying, thank you. You are my right response. You might hear me breathing. I'm doing that to just assist the breath of the group. I'm going to step into using some sound. And this is accessing the ancestral realm, the inherited realm. And what I know from the ancestors is that they've told me that our most challenging experiences are the prayer we inherited from our ancestors, the one they didn't yet figure out how to answer. And we are here to answer that prayer. So we're allowed to feel that intensity. And when we allow it and say, this is my right response, and be with the breath, we can start to allow in curiosity, which is always our key out of the intensity. What is this trying to show me? Where does this want to move me? What have I been ignoring? What's really going on? Any question we can ask ourselves when we bring in that curiosity, we already start to soften the intensity. Might not go all the way down and leave us, but we'll begin to soften it. And we can just breathe and allow the answer to come up from inside our own body, inside our own heart. So I'm going to do some sounding right now. And no matter where you are emotionally, just let yourself have the experience of what comes up and feel the deep wisdom that's in your DNA of your experience, your responsive experience. Continuing to feel your breath. Recognizing yourself as right and perfect in this moment. Recognizing that whatever your response was, It was perfectly yours and exactly right. Just taking a moment to ask the self, if you need to, what do I need to know about this right now? Or you can just relax and keep feeling. Give that about a minute. So I'll open it up for some brief shares if you'd like in a moment. But the key point to take away from this is that the foundation to moving through any of this is your awareness and your acknowledgement. Turning to the breath. Breath actually slows down time, whereas our traumas speed it up. We had to react very quickly and move in ways we couldn't process when we went through difficult times that's been stored in the system. When that gets reactivated now, we can forget that we have time to breathe and think and feel. We do have that time, especially when we're on our own and starting to practice this work, so we can use it in moments where we do have to act more quickly. Feeling our breath, acknowledging our responses as right and perfect, and bringing in that curiosity. Show me where you want me to go from here. Okay. So if anyone wants to share anything they're feeling or ask a question, feel free. Thank you, Simone. She said the music brings her to such a soft place. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Scorpio activation.
I will also just chime in and say that I really loved your meditation on what I'm feeling is right. I'm just kind of like engraving that, embedding that, weaving that into the journey, I think is really powerful. And it's a beautiful mantra to kind of hold on to as you move forward. So I just wanted to shout that out.
Thank you, Simone. Okay, for the interest of time, I'm going to let Simone start to offer us the deep wisdom of Mother Earth and how to work with the plants and herbs to support what we're going through. Again, you can write in any questions and reach out after the workshop to talk about anything that came up for you that we didn't get a chance to address. Go ahead, Simone.
Fabulous. Okay, so if everyone has landed from that beautiful journey, I have prepared a few slides to kind of go with my presentation, which I'll be talking about a few plant allies. I like to call them allies, but a few different plants that we can work with to help us create those states that Amanda was talking about before, talking about grounding and safety, all those places. These plants can help us create the internal conditions that we need to help us feel and process and acknowledge and integrate as well. So I'll be focusing on a few allies in depth, that these plants that help support the nervous system, the heart, our states of consciousness, all that are affected when emotions feel heavy, overwhelming, or volatile. And we'll also talk a little bit about allies that can be uplifting, because sometimes we feel weighted down or depressed. And also allies that are grounding, and when we feel overstimulated, anxious, or scattered. And I want to name that Mother Earth provides an abundance of pathways for emotional support. And there are many, many, many plants to talk about. So I'll only be going into depth for just a tiny bit, but I'll make some quick shout outs in lieu of going deep on some of the other ones. And in that thought of the earth being so abundant, just wanted to shout out a little question. You can feel free to write it in the chat, but just curious, what kinds of earth medicine do you already turn to when you're in need of support? Whether that's making a cup of tea of a certain herb, or maybe even making a soup, or grilled cheese, or maybe walking barefoot. I'm just curious how you find comfort from the earth. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. I find comfort in walking around in nature for sure. And, barefoot is harder for me because I'm in the city, but when I'm out upstate, I'm barefoot for sure. And I'm hugging those trees, let me tell you. But I'll keep going. And the title of this is Nervines and Adaptogens. So I thought, what best to start by just, what are nervines and what are adaptogens? They're just two categories of allies, but they work in slightly different ways. So our nervines are plants that act more directly on the nervous system, and they just help us feel calmer, more relaxed, and sometimes even more alert if they're clarifying. And their effects are usually felt fast or pretty quickly. Like, for example, if you make a cup of chamomile tea before bed, you'll start to feel that, and then you'll want to get under those sheets. Adaptogens, on the other hand, are more about long-term resilience. So they don't usually give you an instant effect, but instead they support your body's overall ability to adapt, whether that's to stress or whether that's to anger or rage. These are some ones we might know are like ashwagandha or tulsi. These are really great when taken regularly, almost like a daily ally to help restore balance and build energy over time. So the simplest way to remember it, nervines comfort you in the moment, and adaptogens help you build strength over the long run. Now, for these nervines, I first wanted to talk about gentle everyday allies. These are the ones that you can turn to on an everyday basis. They're very safe, nourishing, approachable, and oftentimes very familiar to us because they are approachable. And I'm confident you might have heard these already and you've worked with them already. But just think of them as daily comforts that can help ease us when we need that extra help in our ordinary life. So the one I wanted to bring in today from that category is lemon balm. And lemon balm, whose name comes from melissa, meaning honeybee, has long been associated with sweetness, nurturance, vitality. Beekeepers at the Temple of Artemis planted lemon balm around hives to keep the bees happy. And in Greece and Turkey, it was believed that growing lemon balm near beehives would also attract them and soothe them. And in the Middle Ages, it was a trusted remedy not only for moods, but also for wounds and bleeding. And in Arab medicine, it was praised as the herb that causeth the mind and heart to become merry. So across time, lemon balm has been cherished as a comforting, joyful, and gently uplifting plant. And so what are the actions here? Well, it's a nervine, but also a slight relaxant. It's a mild antidepressant, anxiolytic, which means it helps with anxiety, as well as carminative, which means it helps with the digestive system. And it's also, as a bonus, antiviral, which is great for our immune system as well. So it's great for depressive moods. Lemon balm is really amazing when you are going through something and then you just feel depleted and you feel like kind of like gravity is weighing you down and you just want to like go on the floor, but you're looking for maybe a little bit of sunshine in your cup, maybe a little bit something to brighten your mood, to soften your nerves, to uplift your heart. But it's not super stimulating, it's uplifting. So it's not something that's going to make you get jittery. It's not something that you can take it with caffeine. It's not a stimulant. And the way I like to enjoy it is with some fresh fresh leaves or dried leaves as a tea because it's so delicious and it's so sweet. And when brewing this, which you want to do about a teaspoon, you can go up to 2 teaspoons if you want. Cover it. Make sure to cover it when you're steeping this one because it has all these volatile oils, the citronelle, all these oils that give it that lemony flavor. We want to keep that in the cup, so make sure to cover it. But you can also use the fresh leaves in a blender with water and make a fresh smoothie, which is really delicious too. But I just want to get back to the point of, you know, it's associated with the energy of the bees. And we want to remember that the bees teach us about community, and they teach us about the hive, and they teach us about sweetness. And I find that lemon balm is also really great in a situation where you're feeling really alone and you're feeling like, I've got no one. And this tea can make you feel like this softness, this gentle lift, and a just reminder of Mother Earth just always having our back, always being there for us. And I also love to talk about safety always. And this is I have a scale from 1 to 5. 1 being the safest, the most nourishing. Lemon balm is on the 2. So it's very nourishing, slightly tonic, but it's very safe for pregnancy. It's very safe when you're nursing. I also recommend it to women who are in postpartum. It's fantastic for that, so that you can find some more lifting energy to tend to your child's needs while you're recovering. And it's also really great for kids too. It's very gentle, and you can use it for colic or restlessness. One thing to note is it does have, there's a possible suppression of the thyroid function when you take lemon balm in very high doses. Not something to worry about, but just putting it out there so that we know. So be cautious if you're using thyroid medications. But I also just want to give shout outs to chamomile and to lavender. You've heard of them, you know them, but they have been working with us for centuries, for thousands of years. The ancient Egyptians used both of these. They used to burn chamomile as incense and offer it to the sun god Ra. And they also used to use lavender when they were mummifying their pharaohs. It's because it's an antimicrobial, as well as smells amazing, as well as it has this clarifying, beautiful presence to it. These are fantastic herbs to work in many different ways, but I can't talk about them. But I'm just pointing them out there to just know. And I'm sure you're like, I already knew that, Simone, but just know they have fantastic histories. And then I just wanted to point out a couple. One, a stronger nervine, which is one that we can go to for a specific moment when you're especially raw, as opposed to ones that you can take on the daily when you're just like, I just need this. This is for a very powerful, supportive window to help us for profound relief. So we need to, when we're inviting these plants in, we need to respect how and when we use them. But the one that I wanted to bring in today was passion flower. And this is a plant that is native to Central and South America and carries so much powerful symbolic lineage. The name passion flower actually comes from the Roman Catholic priests who, after colonizing the area, decided this is the plant that reminds us of Jesus's crucifixion because it has the crown of thorns and it has the 10 apostles and it has the 5 sepals. And they were like, this is now called passion flower. But this has been a plant ally for the indigenous peoples of the Americas way before they came onto the land, and they have been using it to calm the nervous system, to soothe the spirit, to bring sleep. Shamans in South America still use it to this day in floral baths and also in incense to cleanse and ease trauma. Across traditions, passion flower is known as a bridge, helping us surrender, release, and reconnect to peace when the mind is tangled and restless. And a little bit about the breakdown of this plant. How does it affect us? Well, it is a sedative nervine, so it does not only calm us but also make us a little sleepy. It's also an anxiolytic, helps with anxiety. It's also an antispasmodic, so you can actually feel it physically in your muscles. And it's a hypnotic and also a mild pain reliever, which is why this is really great for busy minds, circular thoughts, when you're really agitated and you're just like, I just can't stop and I just need to calm down. And it's also great for PMS if you have cramps or anything, because it has that mild pain relieving as well. It's a fabulous, powerful plant. It carries this energy of like a deep exhale. It carries the energy of release, of letting go. It is oftentimes used in a tincture form because it has this grassy flavor. You can drink it as a tea. We drink the petals. And also, as a reminder, the passion flower is the flower for the passion fruit tree, passion fruit vine. So those little fruits you see, that's passion fruit. And I love passion fruit. Anybody else love passion fruit? It's like one of my favorite. So this, when you were drinking the tea, we often blend it with, well, I like to blend it with chamomile or lemon balm too, to make a little balance, but just adding a little more flavor because it's kind of grassy. But in a tincture form, it's really great. And again, for the tea, we're talking about a teaspoon per cup. And you can take the tincture in small doses throughout the day, depending on what the dosage says on the bottle. But you can take this throughout the day when you're in a moment of, I can't stop, I can't stop, I can't stop. I need something like this. You can invite this plant in for whatever that moment is that you're experiencing. And it is very synergetic, which is why you often find it in sleep blends too. You might find passion flower in a sleep blend. So safety level, this is actually a level 3, so it's more tonic, which is why we recommend it short to medium term. Because it has effects on the uterus, it is recommended to not have it during pregnancy unless you have professional guidance. It's mainly in large doses and also in the beginning, in the first trimester is when we want to avoid it. But afterwards, it's really great towards the end and also in the the postnatal phases, the maternal phases. And it's also, it's okay to take when you're nursing as well. Just caution with in the beginning part of your pregnancy. And also because this has a sedative effect to it, we don't want to mix it with other sedatives. We don't want to mix it with sleep meds, alcohol, any of those things. Just let it do its work and feel it out through your body. And I just want to give our honorable mentions here to valerian, to skullcap, to kava kava, and also to motherwort, because motherwort is the lion-hearted midwife that is like a warm hug from your mother, and it's amazing, grounding, deep support. These are also ones I would recommend that I don't have time to go into, but they exist and they are here for us. And then I wanted to bring in one adaptogen, something that we can help adapt to stress, adapt to our intense emotions, get some support that's with long-term vitality. And I got to talk about reishi. I thought reishi was the best one to bring in today because it's known as, it's also known as lingxi in Chinese medicine, known as the mushroom of immortality. And it's been used for thousands of years and revered by Taoist monks as a Shen tonic, a medicine that nourishes the spirit and is said to not only bring peace, but also longevity and wisdom and divine power. It's in the oldest Materia Medica from China, which is 200 CE. And it's valued for stabilizing qi, or vital energy, calming the mind and supporting our spiritual growth. So monks have consumed reishi, not just for health reasons, because it is an immunoregulator, but also for its profound meditative states and mystical awareness that it can awaken. So this is really great if you're on a journey right now trying to do some deep exploration of these feelings. Reishi is a great ally for that. So it is an adaptogen. It's kind of on the scale. It can slightly be a nervine. So you might actually feel this after like a couple days. You might start to feel the effects, but it's really great over time. It's also an immunomodulator, like I said before. So it's great this time of year if you're trying to boost your immune system. Also an anti-inflammatory, which when we lower our cortisol levels, we strengthen our immune system. We strengthen our nervous system. It's all connected. It's also a cardiotonic, meaning that it is really great for the heart. And so we're talking an ally for burnout, for anxiety, for severe stress, for weakness, for longevity, for insomnia, when we just can't sleep because our mind is just running. It carries the spirit of the monk. So it has this deep grounding and calming energy for for retreating, for renewal. And it really feels like slow and steady. It's not stimulating, it's just fortifying, and just strengthens our patience and our endurance, and just increases our calm presence. I had some reishi today. I don't know if I have a calm presence today, but reishi is fantastic. I also did have some coca today, so I might be on the verge of a little bit of both, but you know, they're all here. Well, how do we take reishi? Well, reishi is a very hard mushroom, and mushrooms are really interesting because they hide all of their nutritional value behind this wall called a chitin. And the harder the mushroom, the thicker and harder the chitin is. So when we need to work with hard mushrooms, we need to think about decoctions, which means that we're not steeping them, we're boiling them, and we're reducing it in half and then adding more water, then reducing it in half. That's what a decoction is. But also tinctures are great, extracting it into alcohol. I like to do a hybrid. So I extract it in alcohol, and then I strain out all the bits, and then I put that into water and I do a decoction, and then I combine the decoction and the tincture. So that way we get all of the different constituents through the water extraction and through the alcohol extraction. It can also be used in, but it can definitely be used in tea, but you have to just decoct, you have to slowly brew it and boil it. But the monks, the ancient monks, the monks that we're talking about in the history here, would drink it as a tea specifically. You can also find reishi in powders, because when you grind it up really fine, you can break through that chitin. So you can add it to your smoothie. And of course, you can find it in capsules as well. And this is a safety level of 3. So we're hedging towards, we're tonic. And it is really great in moderate doses. It's very safe for mothers. There's one thing to know is that it may potentially interact with blood thinners because it's a cardiotonic, and we are entering the cardiovascular system. But this is, again, with large doses. It is very safe, but it's always great to work with your herbalist whenever you're trying to call a plant in. But you know, for this one, it's my little fun thing is that it's kind of bitter, and I think it's really great when combined with cacao. Make it a little more palatable. And I know we're almost at time, but just my shout out here: ashwagandha, cordyceps mushroom, and also tulsi. These are fantastic adaptogens that I recommend looking into. And speaking of cacao, I just need to bring her into really quickly, because this is a very sacred plant that I think most of us have worked with, but if you haven't worked with it in the ceremonial space, it is so powerful. It is the tropical trees, theobroma, which literally means food of the gods, theo meaning God, broma meaning food. And it has been revered for thousands, 5,000 years, especially by the Maya and the Aztec civilizations. And they did not treat it as something that's sweet, it's something that's sacred medicine, a ceremonial ally that they thought was introduced from Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who brought cacao to humanity as a gift to help us remind ourselves of our divine nature. So it's oftentimes consumed in circle, in community, but you can absolutely work with cacao on your own individually, creating a little moment of ceremony. Cacao is a great ally for slowing down and for really connecting with those sacred breaths that Mara was talking about, just taking deep breaths and like listening to your body and to your heart. She is great for reverence, for emotional openness, as well as just clarity in altered emotional states. And just a little bit about her constituents, or her actions rather. She's on a biochemical perspective, she's rich in magnesium and iron and zinc, potassium, copper, all of these things that support the nervous system and also the cardiovascular health. It also contains natural dopamine and serotonin precursors, which means it supports the mood. If you've ever noticed how you feel a little bit better, or like how you crave chocolate when you're having a bad mood, it's because of this. And also, not only that, but it also has an adenamide, which is often called the bliss molecule. So this also contributes to that feeling of connection, of warmth, of embodied presence. And we also know that cacao increases blood flow to the brain, so it enhances focus and awareness. It's kind of stimulating. And it's been long used to support meditation and prayer because of that help in the conscious reflection, rather than numbing and disassociating and just fading into the fog. Spiritually, cacao is described as the heart teacher, not a loud, not an intoxicating, but a deeply relational teacher associated with initiation, devotion, and remembrance. Cacao invites us to stay present rather than bypass it. It's the medicine for moments when we just want to feel more and not less. And it's so gentle and it's so reverent. But like I said, it is a mild stimulant. So it's a circulatory activator. So you will probably feel energized. So it's avoid it at night if you're trying to get to sleep, or avoid it if you have serious heart conditions. Always talk to whoever you're working with in your health realm, and avoid it if you're sensitive to stimulants in general. And also, but you can work with it in small doses. Ceremonial doses are a lot larger, but cacao it's very different than chocolate. I'm sure you all know this, but it's very minimally altered and just intentionally prepared. And I've had the honor of preparing some in Costa Rica with the Bribri tribe, and I've been forever changed. It's such a beautiful process of stirring and toasting and grinding. But lastly, just a couple of things. We've already touched on the nervous system, and I'm not going to go over my whole spiel, but I just want to say that when we're working with the plants, we're inviting them to come and speak with us and to talk to us, and they speak our language. And when we are talking about working with the nervous system, we're talking about the spine, we're talking about the brain, the heart, the gut. All of these things are connected. So they all shape how we feel and how we perceive. I like to think of the nervous system as a satellite because it runs through every chakra and it's constantly receiving information from inside and out of us. So in another class, in another day, or join me at Plant Church every Monday for free. I talk about all of these things. But on your healing journey, your body will give you signs and cues. And so I just ask you to let them guide you. Try to listen and always try to know what you are and what the plant is. And then that way you can speak to them and you can hear them better. And always be safe. And my last thing to point out is the difference between peacemaking plants and pharmacological agents. They both have a place. What we were talking about today were peacemaking plants, the nervines and adaptogens. These are plants that help restore peace in our bodies. They strengthen and soothe the nervous system and invite the body back into safety and balance. Pharmacological agents, SSRIs, benzos, opioids, but also kratom. It's plant-based, analgesic, but it's still an agent because it acts directly on the brain's receptor sites. So they can provide relief or stability, but they do so by modifying signals rather than healing the root imbalance. So they both serve a purpose, but one supports the body in remembering peace and the other can temporarily create it. So I'm ending there by saying thank you for listening. But there's so many more things to talk about, right? Because there's so many other plants, but there's also so many ways to work with the plants, like tea meditations or teas in apps or teas in seeds. There's ways to work with other than they're a little staticky. But with that note, I want to just move this over into just a little invitation that I want
to say really quickly, because we are at time, so anyone who has to leave, please feel free. Any information we're going over from this point forward, you will receive in the replay. You'll also receive in follow-up emails from us. And if you want to stay and ask questions after we share this little invitation we have for you, we'll stay on a little longer for questions. Okay, go ahead, Simone.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. And we will share the replay tomorrow, so if you have to head off, please do. But please stay and hang out with us too. And also, Kat, I love what you said about how everything's inspiring. And I love also, Rachel, how you said about using passion flower in your tea. Also on your altar. I have plants on my altar too. That's another way that we can work with them, which is so beautiful. So with that in mind, I want to put out there that we are hosting a structured space, a retreat next month actually, led by Mara and Amanda and myself, and we're going to be heading upstate to the Catskills to journey together into the tender, triggering, transformative landscape of sacred rage in a more devoted, structured space. So if this has been inspiring for you, or you feel like, I want to know more, I want to go deeper, we have a space available for you to come join us. We're calling it our Sacred Rage Retreat. And it's going to be for femme identifying peoples only, because we're going to be working through feminine rage. We love our men, and we want to create a space for men to also have this. And I'm sure you can understand why maybe a man's rage and a woman's rage might cause a little bit of friction in a circle. But we, Mara and I and Amanda, we all work with men. We have male clients. We love our men, but this particular offering is for femme identifying folk. And it is it's a space filled with ritual, earth-based healing, sacred plant medicine. In the actual modalities we'll be talking about, we'll be doing a mushroom journey. I didn't even talk about our psychedelic plant allies that help us move through emotions, but the mushrooms are fantastic for that. We'll be doing a mushroom journey, also doing a sober ceremony of stillness and prayer, breath work, meditation practices, somatic movement, and ecstatic dance. I'll be holding a cacao ceremony in the Mayan lineage, as well as offering some more herbal guidance, and I'll be doing tea blends, and we'll have tea ceremonies. We'll do grief rituals. We'll be howling at the moon. We'll be dancing around the bonfire. We'll be eating lots of nourishing food and just resting and just connecting with the land. And I just want to talk about the land really quick, it's the Western Catskills. It's about 3.5 hours upstate. It's a small journey. It's 500 acres at a place called Franklin Phonics. And it's not a retreat center, but it is a living, working homestead. And it is a land-based initiative. And it's stewarded by dear friends of mine, and I've been spending a lot of time on this land, so I'm very connected to it. There's a willow-shaped pond that reflects the sky like a portal, and a labyrinth of goldenrod that invites contemplation. There's also many different nature-based installations to connect with the land, and then we'll be staying in this new field house that was just built a year ago. And it's not a creaky old cabin. It's got modern, clean, thoughtfully designed spaces, as well as a steam shower, lots of hot water, comfy beds, tons of natural light, and just nestled in that 500-acre land. So we'll have just us, and we'll have all the space we need to scream as loud as we need to scream. And the word phonic means it's the entities of the soil, of the underground, specifically of the earth. So I love that the stewards of this land are giving note to how important it is to give thanks to the soil itself. You know, we talk a lot about the roots and the mycelials. What about the home that encases them? So I also wanted to pass things off to Mara, because I know she had a bunch of things she wanted to say. Excuse me. But any questions, we can put them in the chat. And please feel free to reach out to me. I'll leave my Instagram and my email in the chat as well. And feel free to join me any Monday for Plant Church. But let's talk more about this retreat if anyone's interested. Mara, please.
Yes, so our container will be the three of us as you experienced today, but on a deeper, larger scale, because we'll have 3 days together to go really deep into all these areas we were covering. Amanda will also be playing DJ sets for us to get the emotions moving through our body. Simone and I will be leading ceremonies. I'll be doing a sober ceremony, also the mushroom ceremony, and as Simone said, she'll be leading the cacao. She'll also be cooking for us all weekend and talking about the medicine of the food we're feeding our bodies and how she prepared these meals. And so we are holding a container for those. Everyone is welcome. If you feel called to come, please talk to us. We do screening calls first to make sure the group is going to work well together, is cohesive, and that people are really ready to go deep with us in this way. So if you are interested, please reach out for your call to really discuss everything and make sure we have a group that can really honor the space we're building together, which is that of inner safety and safety within a group. And the afterglow, as Simone so beautifully called it, the retreat doesn't end when the retreat ends. We're building community. So we heal together. And when we leave the space and go home, we're going to be continuing to reach out, check in with you. And we will likely have an integration call after the fact so everyone can come back together and talk about what's been coming up for them and how things have shifted and strengthen that sense of we're in this together. And just because we left the ceremonial space doesn't mean that the quote ceremony ended. So this retreat is for you if you can read that there, and I think we can include the slides. Also, you'll be getting this information in follow-up emails. You'll be able to look at our website. If you were here in this workshop tonight, this retreat is likely for you. We do ask that you really be ready to step deep into these realms and also know how to hold space for yourself, because we will be working within a group, even though you'll be supported and guided by the three of us. What's included, again, you can look at the slide there. We'll be sending you all this information in an email, and we covered most of it. Your food, your lodgings are covered in the price for the whole weekend. 3 ceremonies, dance, movement, bonfire, support throughout. You can always come up to one of the three of us and discuss what's going on for you. And a lot of fun things we'll be bringing in the moment. And so we have a breakdown. Scorpio activations, are there any retreats for men and women? We are working on that, yes. We want to include men in this space. It's very important for men and women to understand the way each other experience rage and the crossover. Before we develop that, any men, beautiful men who are in this room with us tonight, please feel free to reach out with us, and we can share other ways we can work with you, both one-on-one and in community. So if you decide to, and please, men, share this with any women you know that you feel would be good for this particular retreat. So if you sign up tonight or within the next 48 hours, you get our very special workshop price of $1,350. Our regular early bird pricing is $1,500, and that ends in a few days or next week. And after that, the price goes up to our regular price of $1,750. But if you are interested, you feel that yes fully today and in the next 48 hours, you'll get the special workshop price of $1,350. You can reach out to us. Again, we don't just send out a link for you to sign up and pay right there. We do screening calls, and we can talk about payment plans with you. So feel free to reach out to us and discuss your participation within the next 48 hours. And that QR code, Simone, can you remind me what that QR code is for?
Yeah, of course. That QR code leads you to the intake form, which is something that you can just fill out even if you're just interested and you wanted to ask more questions about the ceremony, or you just wanted to pick our brains. You could just input your information there. We'll get back to you. But also that is what you would go through first before putting anything down, because like Mara said, we want to make sure that the circle is the right circle, and everyone is looking for the same thing, and that we have the ability to hold that, because this is a very very important container to be aware of. And also I want to mention that we have a 48-hour full refund policy, because we understand that sometimes we can say yes and then we'll go to sleep and then we'll be like, actually I got a sign, or I got an email, or something happens where you're like, actually I've changed my mind. And we want to honor that and just want to make sure that you don't feel pressured. Like if you want to say yes, and then you want to change your mind, that is totally understandable and totally human, and we want to honor us being humans. So that is also a thing too.
Yeah. So again, we're there to talk you through the whole process if you're feeling this is for you. Yeah, and so thank you for being here with us tonight. Again, you'll be receiving all of this in a follow-up email. And the three of us will stay on for a few extra minutes if anyone has pressing questions or anything they feel it's important to share before we officially close the room.
I'm seeing this comment about time in bread pie, and that's really cool. I'm excited by that. I'm not even sure what bread pie is, but I'm going to look it up. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Your energy provided an amazing workshop. Everyone contributed to how the flow of the night went, so we're really blessed and honored to have held this space with you tonight.
Sorry, I just wanted to say something regarding the time. It's so interesting because I was born in Lebanon, but I'm Armenian ethnicity, and I've ate thyme pretty much all my life up until now. And if you go to the Middle Eastern communities, they will have this thing called za'atar, which is basically thyme in olive oil that's spread over dough, and instead of tomato sauce and cheese, it's basically thyme. It's called manouche. Just FYI. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm Middle Eastern, and I'm very familiar with za'atar. It's amazing. Simone, I'll bring you some.
Oh, I have za'atar.
Okay, but do you have za'atar from like the homeland?
Well, I would love for you to bring me some. I'm not going to turn that down. I mean, I live in Brooklyn, so I've got. Please bring it from home. I love it. Thyme is also a great ally for our sore throats. If you have a cough or just like a whatever's going on, thyme with honey and tea is really great. It's a slight antispasmodic for the throat muscles, and it's just really soothing. If you ever have some coughs during this cold season, or some people aren't in cold seasons, but us in the upper Canada and northeastern regions, thyme is. Wow. Thanks to everyone who stayed late. I know we went 15 minutes over, but yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, guys. We appreciate it. Reach out if you have any questions or comments or anything.
Please.
Yeah, and we'll also be including our individual emails again in the follow-up email you receive from us. So if there was one of us in particular you wanted to ask questions to or reach out to, you'll have our information.
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Is it just us?
Okay. Someone left.
Okay, wait, let's leave and rejoin because she's still recording and I can't stop it.
Oh, she's back in.
Can you stop recording? Can it stop? Can you?
Wait.